Testing. Here we go. Closer to the mic. How's this? Testing. 1, 2. There we go. Okay. Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin O'Connor, and I'm Chief Executive Officer of the Albany County Capital Resource Corporation, the issuer, in connection with the project which is the subject of this public hearing. I am also the public hearing officer for this public hearing, and we are holding this public hearing to allow citizens to make a statement for the record relating to the sponsorship and involvement of the issuer with the project, the proposed project, for the benefit of the CIDC Albany Center, LLC, a New York State limited liability company, also known as the borrower. Chris Canada, counsel to the issuer, will provide a description of the proposed project and the borrower's request for financial assistance, along with further information regarding the purpose of the public hearing, the issuer's legal authority, and the issuer's next steps. Once Mr. Canada is finished, I will then open up this public hearing for comments.
We good? Okay. The proposed project consists of the following: the reconstruction and renovation of an existing building containing approximately 40,840 square feet, the existing facility, comprised of 6 stories in the front portion of the existing facility and 2 stories in the rear portion of the existing facility, respectively, located on 2 parcels of land containing approximately 0.84 acres at 120 and 126 State Street in the city of Albany, Albany County, New York, referred to hereinafter as the land. The construction of an additional 2 stories to the rear portion of the existing building containing approximately 59,810 square feet, referred to hereinafter as the addition, and collectively with the existing facility, referred to hereinafter as the facility, and the acquisition, installation thereon and therein of machinery and equipment, referred to hereinafter as the equipment, with the land, the facility, and the equipment being hereinafter collectively referred to as the project facility. All the foregoing to be owned by the borrower and leased to the Albany Convention Center Authority for use as a convention facility and any other directly and indirectly related activities. B, the financing of all or a portion of the costs of foregoing by the issuance of tax-exempt or taxable revenue bonds of the issuer in one or more issues or series in an aggregate principal amount sufficient to pay a portion of the cost of undertaking the proposed project, together with necessary incidental costs in connection therewith, estimated to be $38 million, in any event not to exceed $40 million, referred to hereinafter as the obligations. C, the paying of a portion of the costs incidental to the issuance of the obligation, including issuance costs of the obligations, capitalized interest, and any reserve funds as may be necessary to secure the obligations. D, the granting of certain other financial assistance with respect to the foregoing, including exemption from certain mortgage recording taxes. And E, the making of a loan, referred to hereinafter as the loan, of the proceeds of the obligations to the borrower or such other person as may be designated by the borrower and agreed upon by the issuer. For clarification purposes, I would like to state that the obligations of the issuer issued with respect to the proposed project will not be obligations of the state of New York or any municipality thereof, including Albany County, New York, the municipality for whose benefit the issuer was created. In addition, the obligations of the issuer will not be a general obligation of either the issuer or the county. This means that if the holders of the obligations are not paid by the borrower, the holders of the obligations will not be able to come back against the issuer or the county. The obligations are not an obligation of the county or the taxpayers of the county. The issuer is a New York not-for-profit corporation created pursuant to Section 1411 of the Not-for-Profit Corporation Law of the State of New York as amended, referred to hereinafter as the Enabling Act. Pursuant to the provisions of the Enabling Act and Revenue Ruling 57-187, and Private Letter Ruling 200936012, the county legislature adopted a resolution on September 8, 2014, referred to hereinafter as a sponsor resolution. 1, authorizing the incorporation of the issuer under the Enabling Act, and 2, appointing the initial members of the board of directors of the issuer. In September 2014, a certificate of incorporation was filed with the New York Secretary of State office, creating the issuer as a public instrumentality of the county. Because the borrower is located within the county, the borrower is eligible for assistance from the issuer. This public hearing is being held by the issuer to satisfy the provisions of Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as amended, referred to hereinafter as the Code, and is provided in the Certificate of Incorporation of the issuer. Section 859A2 of the said general municipal law of the state of New York. After consideration of the application submitted by the borrower to the issuer, the members of the issuer adopted a resolution on April 16th, 2025, referred to hereinafter as the preliminary inducement resolution, authorizing the issuer to conduct this public hearing with respect to the proposed project. The chairperson of the issuer caused a copy of the certified preliminary inducement resolution to be mailed on April 22nd, 2025 to the chief executive officer of the county and of each city, town, village, and schools district in which the proposed project is or is to be located. The chairperson of the issuer caused notice of this public hearing to be A, mailed on April 22nd, 2025 to the chief executive officers of the county and of each city, town, village, and school district in which the proposed project is or is to be located, and B, published on April 25th, 2025 in the Times Union, a newspaper of general circulation available to the residents of the city of Albany, Albany County, New York. In addition, the chairperson of the issuer caused notice of this public hearing to be posted on April 22nd, 2025 on the issuer's website and on a public bulletin board located at the offices of the issuer at 111 Washington Avenue, Suite 100, Albany, New York. As noted above, the borrower has requested the issuance of tax-exempt and/or taxable revenue bonds with respect to the undertaking of the proposed project. The issuer will consider the borrower's request at a subsequent meeting of the issuer, and at such meeting, the issuer will also consider the comments received at the public hearing held this evening. Such a meeting, like all meetings of the issuer, are open to the general public. We have made arrangements for a stenographer to be present in order to accurately make a record of the public comments. Pursuant to Section 147F of the Code, if any portion of the obligations are intended to be issued as federally tax-exempt obligation, the interest on which will be excludable from gross income of the holders thereof for federal income tax purposes, then prior to issuing such portion of the obligations, A, the issuer must hold a public hearing on the nature and location of the project facility and the issuance of the obligations, and B, thereafter, the county executive of the county must approve the issuance of such tax-exempt obligations. The purpose of this public hearing is to solicit public comment with respect to the issuer's involvement with the proposed project. We are not here to answer questions, although in the course of the hearing we will consider questions if we have the information to answer the question and there is sufficient time to consider such questions. Further questions or comments regarding the environmental, planning, zoning, design, and related issues regarding the proposed project are outside the scope of this public hearing. Lastly, general comments regarding capital resource corporations are not relevant to this public hearing. As previously stated, copies of the notice of this public hearing are available at this public hearing. Now, unless there is any objection, I'm going to suggest waiving the full reading of the notice of this public hearing and instead request that the full text of the notice of this public hearing be inserted into the record of this public hearing. The comments received today at this public hearing will be presented to the members of the board of directors of the issuer at a subsequent meeting of the issuer, at which meeting the members of the board of directors of the issuer will consider whether to approve the undertaking of the proposed project by the issuer and the granting by the issuer of the financial assistance. The notice of this public hearing indicated that written comments could be addressed to Gary Demolowitz, chairperson of the issuer. No written comments have been received by the issuer prior to this public hearing. We will keep the comment period open until 5 p.m. on the calendar day before the meeting of the issuer, at which the issuer will consider approving the proposed project. Any comments received by such time will be included in the record to be considered by the issuer. I will now return the floor to Mr. O'Connor for the purpose of recognizing any representatives from the borrower and any citizens in attendance wishing to make a public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Candidate. Sounds like you might have done this before.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll use this one because we got to get Monica on. Yeah, okay, I'm good. This good? Yeah. I will now introduce Monica Krajewski, who is appearing on behalf of the borrower, who will describe the proposed project in further detail.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Good afternoon. I'm Monica Krajewski. I'm the Executive Director of the Albany Convention Center Authority, a New York State public authority. It is our pleasure to introduce our project to you this afternoon. In partnership with CIDC Albany, the ACCA is looking to purchase 126 State Street and embark on a $51 million expansion of the Albany Capitol Center, which will add over 38,000 square feet of event space here in our beautiful historic downtown Albany. Combined with our existing facility, the venue will provide our destination with almost 84,000 square feet of rentable event space. The expansion is designed to maintain the historic building at 126 State Street, provide a 4,000 square foot open air courtyard on State Street, and build a new addition on Howard Street that will connect to the existing facility. When the Albany Capitol Center first opened 8 years ago, the team knew prior to opening that the facility would need to expand to attract the type of business that Albany is meant to host. They quickly realized that the number of meetings rooms and the lack of a large secondary space was limiting the size and types of events that would have even more economic impact. The center has produced tremendous economic benefits to our destination, even with these limiting factors. It is important to note the success of now, while we build upon that for the future. As of March 31st, 2025, since its opening, the Albany Capitol Center has produced the following economic impacts. Total spending, $96,486,000. Total sales tax generation, $10,440,000. Total visitors through the door, 628,000. Total hotel room nights booked, 134,000, and total events, 1,165, all since our opening in 2017. Tourism and hospitality are economic development. They provide an economic ripple that results in spending in our local economies, investments in properties and places, industry partnerships, job creation, workforce development, sales tax generation, hotel occupancy tax, and people on our streets, most importantly. In 2024, we brought on an industry-specific consultant to update an expansion feasibility study shortly after we opened. It is the intent of the authority to grow the convention, meeting, and sports segments of our industry. Having the consultant take a deep dive into lost business reports, our current book of business, our community, and comparable communities across New York State and the country enabled us to approach this expansion with eyes wide open and a strategy based on reality versus perception. With expansion, the ACC, the Albany Capitol Center, can compete more effectively for events that require significant breakout space like trade shows and conventions and conferences, as well as allow for simultaneous events, bringing more visitors and their spending to Albany County. With the addition of over 38,000 square feet, it is projected that upon stabilization, this facility will generate the following annual economic impacts. Visitor spending, $60,500,000. $60,500,000. A 57% increase in events and conferences with a goal of 235 events on stabilization, equivalent to longer stays and more attendees. A 67% increase in visitors to downtown Albany with a goal of 142,000 people annually. A 121% increase in hotel room stays with a goal of 62,000 per year. But beyond the numbers, this project will allow greater attraction to the New York State Capitol. It will revitalize a vacant, historic property on State Street and bring our visitors to downtown's most iconic corridor. It will encourage Main Street growth, which will further enhance the ripple economy. And finally, it will provide an economic impact not only to our community, but also to New York State, Albany County, the City of Albany, and our county municipalities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kurzjeski. Thank you, Ms. Kurzjeski. I would now offer any remarks from anybody representing the affected taxing jurisdictions. Since there are none here, I would now open the public hearing to comments from the floor. You want to give it 15? Since we have no comments from the floor, I'll just leave the hearing going for another couple of minutes in case we have any late arrivals. Hearing no further comments, I hereby close this public hearing at 5:16 p.m. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Okay, that's a wrap. Michelle, you ruined our perfect record.